Well, people come to me and they ask me, Jeffrey, you've followed wrestling quite a number of years. You've covered it. You've been a fan. Your connection with Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. Who's your one of your favorite wrestlers? Well, I said Captain Obvious must be in a room because anybody born in northern New Brunswick has a great affection for the alumni of Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. And of course, for me, is my not say my close pal, but someone I've crossed paths with several times over the years, who I think is a very cerebral guy, one of the most handsome men I've ever met, best body of any man or wrestler I've covered, even though I'm not gay. If I was, I'd be very attracted to him because he's a total package, no pun intended. The other one wasn't a total package, this guy's a total package. Of course, I'm talking about that Acadian assassin, as I call him, Rene Dupree. Now, Rene was born into wrestling royalty because his father was the great Canadian Maritimes wrestling promoter Emile Dupree. Their family name by birth is Gauguin, but they go by Dupree. And when you saw his father wrestle, the amount of great style and body presence he had, we knew that there would be a descendant of Emile would carry on the genes. And there's been different wrestlers in his extended family, and Rene seems to get all the best genes of the family. Now, born on December 15th, 1983, he's only 36, but what he's done in the wrestling ring, it's just been amazing. He's not only a former World Tag Team Champion, he's a former Canadian Wrestling Champion, he's a former Atlantic Wrestling Champion, never really lost the belt, he's kind of reigning Atlantic Champion, and he's also wrestled in Japan, winning several belts. Worldwide, just came back. I think he was in Sweden in the last few days. He travels the world as an independent wrestler, and his reputation precedes. You see him on different shows across the world. His character, the swagger, the nicknames are tremendous. Now, Rene or Dupree Gauguin, whatever you want to call him, I just call him Rene, is best known for his impressive tenure in WWE, where he was a one-time World Tag Team Champion with Sylvain Gagne in a tag team called Resistance, and a one-time WWE Tag Team Champion with Kenzo Suzuki. Now he's also worked for tremendous independent promotions, including All Japan and Wrestle One. Now he's the first wrestler ever in the WWE to win a title as a teenager, and that's why out of the box by the early 2000s, he was really impressing a lot of people with his presence, with his personality, with his wrestling skill, with his body. A very, very in shape individual. I mean, the only way you could describe Rene's body, he's a Greek god in an Acadian package. He speaks great English, great French. He has that great Acadian accent. Very handsome guy. So if David was going to make an Acadian version of him, it'd be Rene Dupree. Now, his start of his career came in Grand Prix Wrestling, where his father Emil was still a wrestling promoter. He was encouraged and exposed into wrestling at a young age. He became a professional wrestler, get this, at age 13, and began working for his father's Grand Prix program in 1997. A few years later, he signed a developmental contract with WWE and was sent to the now defunct Ohio Valley Wrestling to further develop his skills. Now, standing 6'3", I don't think he's 250 anymore, maybe 235, 240, around that weight. Ohio Valley Wrestling, that's where he came into major presence. He signed with the WWE in April 2012, making him the youngest wrestler in WWF at the time to sign. Now, on October 9, 2002, Rene debuted under his ring name Rene Dupree after his father defeating Johnny Jeter. Now, Dupree would team up with various wrestlers in dark matches on SmackDown and WWE Raw, as well as competing in Ohio Valley Wrestling until April 2003. Now, with La Resistance in 2003-2004, which was kind of the tail end of the Attitude Era, after weeks of vignettes airing, Grenier and Dupree made their first appearance on April 28, 2003 episode of Raw as La Resistance by attacking former world champion Scott Steiner. Now, Steiner made two remarks 2 weeks earlier comparing France to hell, and Grenier and Dupree were offended, which is kind of bizarre because Grenier is Québécois and Dupree is Acadian, but kayfabe, they had to be from France. Now, Le Resistance went into feud with Scott Steiner and another Canadian, Tess, who was forced to be Steiner's tag team partner by George Clooney's ex-girlfriend, Stacy Keibler. 6 degrees of separation here with Rene and me and everybody else, but that's another story altogether. Now, Le Resistance ended up defeating Steiner and Tess at Judgment Day on May 18, 2003 in the team's pay-per-view debut. Now, on June 15, 2003, La Resistance won the World Tag Team Championships from Kane and Rob Van Dam at the Bad Blood pay-per-view, making Dupree again the youngest wrestler in WWE history to not only win the World Tag Team Championships, but any championship in the company's history. He was only 19. Can you imagine 19 years old, you're champion of the world? I mean, that's just completely bizarre because he was sort of like the Conor McDavid of the WWE at the time. Now, also a result of winning the title, he became the first teenager in the history of the WWE that won a championship. So there was no secondary titles or world titles for any teenager. So he really made the Guinness World Book of Records. Now, Dupree held on distinction until April 2018 when the son of one of, I guess, the WWE employees called Nicholas won the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania 34 at the age of 10 with Braun Strowman, which was more of a laugh. It wasn't a real title, obviously. So I don't think that Rene's, distinction will be ever taken away by your 10-year-old son. Now, as Le Resistance kind of grew, the third member of Le Resistance, Rob Conway, was originally introduced as an unnamed American serviceman being abused by Grenier and Dupree. Now, when the Dudley Boys came on to attack Le Resistance, they brought Conway into the ring with an American flag. Once the Dudley Boys had their backs turned, Conway attacked them with the American flag and tore it off the pole and laid on top of them. Now, that's called burying people in the flag. I've had that happen to me at an AWE show in the Prescott region a couple of years ago, and that's what I learned of that. That's kind of a thing that's been mimicked through the years, but burying somebody with their flag. Now, Conway, who now renamed to Robert Conway, joined Dupree and Grenier, and the trio began carrying the French flag to ringside and singing the French national anthem before the matches. Now, they dropped the titles of Dudley Boys and Unforgiven in a 3-on-2 handicap tables match, and they went on to different feuds with several tag teams, including the Dudley Boys again, Rosie and the Hurricane, and Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak. Now, in 2003, Grenier suffered a back injury, and Dupree and Conway held the tag team together until Grenier returned, and they continued to have some success, but he really couldn't get back to the level that they had with the tag team. Now, he wrestled at WrestleMania 20, actually, with Le Resistance competing in a fatal 4-way tag team match for the World Championship, but failed to win the titles. When Grenier returned in March 2004, thus reuniting the trio. The reunion did not last long, as Dupree was the first pick in the 2004 WWE Draft Lottery on March 22nd. Now, he made his SmackDown debut on the March 25th episode of SmackDown by defeating Bill the Kidman. He held a talk show as well called Café de René, but the only guest of the show was Tori Wilson on one segment, and it was allegedly canceled after one night. Now, for several months, he was challenging for the United States Championship, held by John Cena. There was a mini feud going on in there. Now, after an incident that happened during Café de René, Dupree challenged Cena to a title match, and the match was granted, and it took part at Judgment Day in May, and Cena retained the title when he pinned Dupree after executing a feud. Now, at the Great American Bash, he did again compete for the title and the 4-way elimination, but Cena retained. Now, after losing to Cena, he focused on the WWE Tag Team Championships and eventually won the title with Japanese sensation Kenzo Suzuki on September 9th, making him the youngest man to win the WWE Tag Team Championship at the age of 20, an old man, as you can tell. Now, Dupree and Suzuki defeated Rob Van Dam and Rey Mysterio to retain their titles at No Mercy pay-per-view. Now, they lost the championships on December 9th of that year, again to Rob Van Dam and Mysterio. Now, He competed in the another Royal Rumble at 2005, but he was eliminated by Chris Jericho. And No Way Out pay-per-view on February 20th lost to Hardcore Holly and Charlie Haas. So it was Reddy was sort of in the downturn. He put him in the U.S. title situation, the tag teams. Now he did have different kind of matches going on, including squash matches against Undertaker. He had worked several dark matches as well, but it seemed like Cena was the main person he was losing to at the time. Don't know what was going on in the background, none of my business, but he started calling himself actually around this time the French Phenom, which allegedly some members of the media, not myself, were started calling him that. And they were heavy to find out that they were calling him the French Phenom when he started to call himself the French Phenom. And by the time the 2005 WWE draft lottery came about, he went back to Raw, and on July 4th, which is U.S. America Day, as is July 4th, he re-debuted with the French Phenom gimmick, and actually had a big win against Val Venus that night. Now Dupree began cutting promos using a new quote, referring to himself as simply phenomenal, and he began a winning streak quite a bit. And but he was injured in September that year with a very, very bad hernia. Now, once Rene was cleared to wrestle, he was sent back to Idaho Valley for training, and he actually had some early matches against, not early matches, but some of the early matches for Kofi Kingston and David Hart Smith, actually. And the time the OVW came on, he was moved over to ECW, another change of look with clean shaven and long hair. Now, there were different promos aired about Rene. When he finally made the ECW debut on September 12, 2006, he defeated Balls Mahoney. And on ECW on February 20, 2007, he reformed La Resistance with Sylvain Grenier. But the reunion was short-lived after Dupree was suspended at the start of March because of violations of the health and wellness policy. Now, he did return to WWE Developmental Florida Championship on 2007, but he asked for and was received his release on July 26, 2007. Now, since then, he has competed in the independent circuit, mostly from 2007 to 2012, including tours of Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. He was with Hustle in 2007 to 2009, All Japan, of course, 2008, 2010 to 11, Wrestle 1, 2003-14, again on the independent circuit over the years. But it'll be take too long to touch on Rene's all these different independent federations appeared on, but he's still a very in-demand wrestler because of his personality. He's a very personable guy. He's very charming, and it's basically a very, very interesting thing. I tell you why. I only learned this a couple of years after I started covering Rene. He had won the Mr. Canada Bodybuilding Championships in 2001, and a lot of us wondering how come that was kept pretty quiet. There was some question he was going to look at a professional career, maybe going towards a higher level, and I think his love of wrestling, kind of the bodybuilding and the wrestling, he had to make a decision. But I know my old pal Vic Downs, former major British competitor against Schwarzenegger and different people, Mr. Olympia and Mr. Universe. He told me, he said Rene had one of the most well-developed bodies for any wrestler I've ever seen, and he was very surprised that he never continued. Now, I'm going to go over some of these titles, and there's quite a few going on. Now, All Japan Pro Wrestling won the TV Championship one time. The American Wrestling Rampage, he was heavyweight champion twice, and no Olympic Limits champion once. The Canadian Wrestling Federation, CWF, he was tag team champion with Sylvain Grenier. Southside Wrestling Entertainment, he was won their heavyweight championship once. Now, World Wrestling Entertainment, of course, the two championship. But for me, on a personal level, because I'm good pals with Hannibal Devil Nicholson, to see the feud him and Rene had for the great North Wrestling title, which is Hannibal and Rene had some outstanding matches. Rene won the belt and Hannibal won it back. But this was a time where wrestling was starting to pick up. He's part of a lot of eras of great independent wrestling throughout the years. And again, he has so much of a fan base. Everybody wants Rene on their cards, not only because of the name recognition. He's a good worker. He's good with the people. He's good with the fans. But the idea is, we still believe he is a free agent. He'd be very good at any of the new federations like ROH, not new, but ROH, AEW, whatever. But he's his own man. He makes decisions where he wants to wrestle. He makes decision on the people he wants in his life, the people that are part of his life. And all I can say is that when I think of a great wrestler that has the whole total package, I'm sorry to use that line, but he's the Acadian assassin, he's the French Phenom. Any type of the nickname can come in. The only problem I have with Rene is that some people misunderstand his humor, misunderstand his personality. He is there for the fans. And he's a very much like old school, like his father was. He believes strongly in his character, strongly in his presentation. But if you notice him in the ring, there's no wasted movement. If anybody's watching a Rene match, it's a there's a lot going on. There's a cerebral kind of style to it. And that's the Atlantic Grand Prix style, a little bit of WWE style, a little bit of Japanese style. My only regret, he wasn't around the time when the WWE had a lot of Stampede Wrestling graduates. I can see him, if someone went to him and said, "Okay, Rennie, we want you to be our champion," he would go to ball. But what happened? There's always some people are of two minds of Rennie. Do you feel he's too much of a lone wolf? Me, I'm the type of person to say, listen, what would wrestling be in the Maritimes over the last 20 years without Rene Dupree? Rene motivated a lot of young wrestlers. I mean, you turn on WWE, how many times you can see an Acadian broadcast to millions of people across the world? He was only 18, 19 years old. It's like watching Conor McDavid. There's a Hall of Fame induction for Rene down the road. Now, is it going to be the NB Sports Hall of Fame? Is it going to be wrestling, Cauliflower Club, whatever? But you look in maritime wrestling history. You look at, Leo Burke and the Beast and Pettipaw and all that. He's literally probably the last link to that era. He has toured with Atlantic Grand Prix under his banner. His brother Jeff had toured. Cuban Assassin too. Even Lanny, Lanny had toured with Devin Nicholson. But, to see Rene in a ring. I did a big show in Florenceville, which you're seeing some of the pictures in the feed here. It was the easiest assignment I ever had. I took about 275 pictures, but it was a master class of how a wrestler should enter the ring, should promote himself in the ring, how to respond to his opponent, how to tell a story, and how to end a story and connect with the fans. And it doesn't matter if it's 20 people or 20,000. Rene is a person that tells a great story. And I mean, I'm kind of wondering why no Hollywood producer never approached him to do a movie. I mean, but like I said, he's a lone wolf. He lives his own life, and all the power to him. Rene's never told me how to live my life, and I'm not going to tell anybody or tell Rene to his face how to live his life. I'm just glad that he's still with us. He's had some personal problems through the years. I mean, there's been some situations where, it hasn't been the best for him. Touring the world is not easy, and being the son of a great promoter and all these people, people worry about him because he's so busy and he's had some rough times in his life. And I know I'm not here to judge, but I'm just saying everybody got a battle, and Rene's faced some certain battles and he survived those battles. So every day with Rene in the world, as our Acadian assassin, our French Phenom, whatever name you want to call him. I mean, years ago I had some weird nicknames like, I'm just counting Guidon and Guédon and Rene de Bonaparte and Rene Rougeau had it for a time too. So all I can say is that for a wrestler that's built from Paris, France, who's represent Acadie, represent Southern New Brunswick, represent the Francophone wrestling tradition, he covers all the bases. And if you're a woman, maybe 25 or 30, if you ever meet Rene for the first time, this is not being sexist. Me Too movement, I'm a big supporter. But if you like a handsome man with a great body, great personality, he smells great, by the way, Rene's the wrestler for you. If you see Rene in person and you say, how did God put all this muscularity in one person and the hair and everything else? Anyway, he just, he looks like a superstar. He looks like a movie star. Some people have it, and whatever it is, Rene has it. So on this Friday, people are watching NHL Draft, but for me, it's not the same like it used to be because we don't see these players until 3 years later. Nobody goes directly in NHL anymore most times. So if you're a wrestling fan, give me a like, subscribe, or whatever. I'm trying to do more wrestling podcasts. My new association, the Brunswick Independent Authors Association, I've been taking a little of my time lately. But for me, I have time tonight to do a podcast I want to do on Rene when I started this channel about 6 months ago. So to Rene, thank you. You've been good to us in the media, and I hope we're good to you. And we'll see you on the flip. Have a good day.